7 arpeggio.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Minor 7
Because
arpeggio?
we were on that.
Okay. I need to work on that. My minor 7. Because I know my major 7 arpeggio. I don't know why I never did the minor 7. That sounds sweet.
I think every guitarist has learned some things and not something else. Every musician
exactly. They haven't
is really
taken
good at like
it fully to like just keep doing that concept.
But that's fine. I mean, that's the way it is with life. You know, so, I mean, you just need to figure out where you want to go, and then you just need to figure out the least amount of way to get there. You know, and like when I first started learning, I thought that you had to learn everything. You know, I thought that I was going to have to become like some big classical guitarist in order to have permission to go play jazz. You know, and then when I got into jazz, I thought I was going to have to learn all the harmonic vocabulary and be like some expert in music theory. And you know, and then I learned all that wasn't true. You know, I just wanted to just go play what my ear wanted to play, and that was pretty much it, you know. And I just had to learn like the minimum amount of theory and the minimum amount of this and that in order to get me to where I wanted to go. And then work backwards from there. And that's really all you need to know. Yeah, that's true. It's like one thing too I was doing that I just figured out. So it was like C minor doing triads. Yeah, that sounded really good. I noticed that. Yeah, I like that. Like that's all just triads and inversions of 2 different E flat major and F major. It like works, and it just opens everything up. It's a nice technique. So what are your students? What do you teach with your students? I mean, most of them aren't into jazz. I have a couple that are, and a couple that are into classical music too. But most of them are just, you know, I want to play AC/DC or something like that, which is cool. But I try to mix it up. Like, if I don't have them reading music, I like usually I'll have them, if they want or if they can, just read some music and then do like a song that they want to do too. And try to mix that. Or if they're just doing tabs, I'll have them doing, you know, scales, a lot of scales with that. But I'll have it all written on tab, but have them doing scales and some theory stuff, but also something they want to do too. I try to like balance it a little bit like that, but it's hard sometimes. Like if you want to teach, you gotta like, if you want to teach them, you know, something more in depth, I guess, and important, but usually they don't want to necessarily do that, or they'll like lose focus or something. Yeah, and that was me. I mean, you know, I know how to read music, and I've read music on the trumpet. You know, growing up, that was my main instrument. You know, that's what I learned on. But when I got to guitar, I read tab. You know, so when it came time to put the two together, it was very challenging for me to do that. Yeah. So, but when I got to college, my teacher would only teach me if I agreed to read. So I had to learn how to read music, but onto guitar. But I really only did it just for the melodies. So I never learned to read music like the whole hand, you know, right. Stuff, just single note lines, just to learn the melody. And I can still sit down and do it, but man, it takes me a long time. I learn much faster if I can hear it and then just play it like that. You know, but that's what draws me to jamming. That's what draws me to improvisation. It's just being able to hear stuff and then playing off that. And then, you know, then if I get off the chord structure or whatever, then the other musicians, if we all are in on the game, we can help one another take the music somewhere else. And that to me is what it's about. It's a group sport, you know. It is. That's very true. Yeah, if I have a student come in and they say, you know, I used to play trumpet or whatever, or usually that's one of the first things I ask them, can you read music? And they'll say, yeah, I used to play cello or whatever, then I'll definitely make sure they're reading on guitar. Because they already somewhat know how to. They're familiar with notes and stuff. You don't have to sit there and teach. So then it's easier just to say, hey, it's the same thing, but this is how it works on guitar. Yeah. So that is easy to do. I like doing that and kind of just shifting their brain. Especially if it's piano, that's pretty easy, I think. Yeah. To make the switch. But the cool thing too that I get a lot of success with, I find, is if I just teach people patterns and then tell them, look, if you know this pattern in G, you know it in every key. Everywhere. Yeah. You just got to move it up based on and change the root note, really. So that's the cool thing with guitar. It's very visual and
patterns.
Well, and really, a lot of music is like we're just talking about the steel drum.
Yeah.
You know, I look at that thing. I mean, you know, and the guy that sold me that steel drum, he showed me when we were sitting down. He's like, look at this. He's got this notebook, and he tunes for a living. You know, he builds them and tunes them. And so he has a tuning room set up in his shop, and he sits there and takes notes, and he's got like headphones on and a microphone, like a stroke tuner and all that.
Yeah.
And he sits there and he'll bang away at the thing and get it in the right tune. It's very tricky to tune those things, and they go out of tune very easily. When a good steel drum, you have to have them tuned once or twice a year. And so he's banging away at these things, and then he takes all these notes, man. But it's really cool because he writes down the image of the steel drum in the center of the page, and then he's got all these notes and all this stuff. And if you look at it from far away, it's just like this big piece of art. I mean, it's this big drawing of it's just patterns, you know?
Yeah.
What else do you need to know other than the fact that music is patterns, you know?
Definitely.
Have you seen that thing where it's something on, somebody shared it on Facebook, and there's somebody pours like salt or something all over a black sheet, and then they put this subwoofer underneath it or a speaker underneath it, and they crank these frequencies, and as the frequency goes up, all the salt arranges itself in patterns. You know,
I haven't seen it, but I could see how that would happen. Yeah.
I mean, that's so cool. So yeah. I mean, to me, a lot of like patterns are like it's just a natural extension. You guys talking about like the triad thing. Like one of the things I learned is you're familiar with the concept of targeting.
A little bit. I haven't done too much of it.
Well, let's just say like this is the note that I want to target, so I can develop a pattern, any kind of pattern, but I can go like below it and then above it and then right on it, you know. And then so let's say I wanted to do like A minor pentatonic, you know, it'd be like just the notes in there, but if you do it quickly, it sounds like you really meant to do it, you know? Yeah. Multiply that concept by whatever you want to play. Yeah. But maybe that's not the pattern. Maybe the targeting pattern could be like, so like you go 2 below, then 1 above, then right on the note. I'll give you a few bars.
Mostly trying to fit in the cracks and kind of make sure everything's breathing, and most importantly, I guess, make sure that it sounds good for you, because that's, I mean, you're the soloist at that point. You're the main voice, kind of. I'm just kind of.
The funny thing is, I don't think about when I'm soloing. I normally don't think about what's being played. Do you? Do you really listen?
Behind me? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that makes a huge difference if I'm playing with somebody who's comping one way versus another, and how I'm gonna approach the solo, because it all interacts, kind of, or at least that's how I see it. And if I hear something that you do, I may want to comment on that while I'm comping.
And to me, it's more almost like sensing energy. You know, I almost sense the energy of what the person playing behind me is doing more than I'm actually listening so much to their notes, if that makes sense. That being said, though, if you start doing something that's got a particular sound to it, then I may try to hop on that and emulate that with you, and vice versa. But you were doing a lot of nice, tasteful things and kind of hopping around there. When I'm playing the chords of the song, I'm doing more of almost like a bass line kind of thing. You know, like the bass line kind of dictates where I'm going with it.
Important, I think, especially in this scenario of two guitars, because you don't have a bass player and stuff. So it does vary, I think, comping. If I have, you know, that steady, the roots being played all the time, it kind of frees me up to just fill in other things. Whereas if it's just like this with two guitar players, I would want to, you're absolutely right, play more kind of bass stuff, just so the soloist can hear, you know, where everything's moving a little bit clearer. But,
do you have any tips for chords or voicings or anything like that? What were you doing in here?
It was pretty straightforward voicings. I mean, one thing I did try to catch is when there's slash chords with the bass note, I try to make sure I play that. At least when I'm, like I said, in this scenario, not so much if I had a bass player, obviously they would be playing that. But as far as voicings and stuff, I play pretty straightforward. I can't think of anything too special I was doing. I mean, certainly you can re-harmonize certain chords and stuff, but I kept it pretty straight to the form.
How do you, you know, it happens to me a lot, or I'll get lost or I'll miss a chord. And, you know, for me, I've always kind of learned the song and then I try to look off the music. So I don't necessarily, if we've got this music in front of us, but I miss a chord and I realize I missed a chord, sometimes it's hard for me to jump back on because I don't know exactly where I missed. So how do you handle those kind of scenarios?
Well, the first thing, I guess, is just listening. You gotta have huge ears, radar ears, to just kind of bounce back. But one thing that helps is just kind of having the melody always in the back of your head. That kind of always, you know, keeps you on track, because you hear, okay, this was the beginning part of the melody, this is the bridge, this is, you know, the last part, the last day, or however the tune goes. So I think that's huge with that. But as far as if I miss a chord, maybe, I guess it wouldn't be too as crucial, because I'm still not necessarily all the time thinking, okay, I'm on this chord, I'm on this chord, I'm on this chord. Sometimes one technique is just, you know, blocking out passages, so it wouldn't really matter if you missed the second chord necessarily, because you have this chunk of, or whatever scale or sound that you're going for.
Well, one of the things that I'll do is a lot of times, especially as long as you're playing with a band, and in this setting it won't work as well, but a lot of times I won't actually play the chords at all. I'll just kind of let the soloist and the bass player and the drummer and keyboardist, I will kind of back out, and I'll just play octaves on the big strings.
Yeah.
And you can just do it kind of way behind the mix. But if you do it right, you can start to build energy with the band. It's more felt than heard kind of thing, and you don't have to really think so much about what chord you're on as long as you're kind of in the key.
Definitely. Yeah, it's kind of like I guess like if you had a dam or something, you just kept pushing more pressure at water.
Right.
It just breaks, and then everyone's out.
Right. That's a good analogy.
Something like that. So.
All right, cool, man. Any final thoughts on the comping stuff?
Comping, I would say listen. Definitely listen, because sometimes you could be playing something really hip, but it doesn't necessarily work with what the soloist is doing, so that could destroy the whole vibe. And just kind of listen for the space and how you can use it or fill it up, basically, because everything should kind of breathe. Definitely, it shouldn't feel too mixed up in between different times or rhythms, like not necessarily meshing.
Which can be tricky when you have a drummer.
Yeah, that too. So I would say listening and just making sure everything has its own right place.